Have you ever felt like life challenges all your logic, everything you believe to be right? I've been there, and what happened to me was something few have the courage to admit. Imagine, for a moment, being in a marriage, living the daily routine, but deep down, feeling that something is missing. And the worst part, instead of seeking something outside, you find in your own husband the permission to explore a world you never imagined. I cheated on my husband, and believe me, he knew and even took part in it. No, I'm not talking about something you only see in movies. This is a real story, an experience that will shock you, make you reflect on what you truly want from life and love. This isn't the kind of confession you expect to hear from someone, right? But stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you thought about relationships, fidelity, and desire. Maybe after hearing my story, you'll see yourself in a similar situation or feel the desire to change your own perspective. If you're curious about what happened and how it all ended, don't waste any more time and subscribe to the channel right now. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any details of this shocking story. Leave your comment below, share this video with anyone you think needs to hear it, like the video, and of course, feel free to interact. Your opinion means a lot to me. I could barely contain my anxiety. What had once seemed like a distant fantasy, something I only imagined in the loneliest hours, was about to become reality. My husband, who always seemed so calm and controlled, made all the plans. He knew what I needed, maybe even more than I did. But at the same time, there was something in the air I couldn't quite place. A nervousness, an energy that vibrated between us. Something that didn't seem to belong to the moment. I felt like I was about to cross a point of no return, and my mind was filled with conflicting thoughts, mixing desire with fear. The details began to emerge more vividly as the time approached. Every step he took toward what would be a different, more intense night felt like a confirmation that something was changing. And the truth is, I didn't know what to expect. Something told me that, deep down, he already knew where this would lead me. It wasn't the first time I had felt this sense of anticipation, but this time was different. Something inside me knew I was about to explore unknown territory, and yet, I was willing to take the first step. The moment felt almost surreal. My mind was lost in a confusion of feelings that couldn't fit into words. The tension was in the air, and I could feel my body reacting in ways I had never imagined. Anxiety took over me, mixed with wild curiosity and an increasing need to experience what I had only dreamed of. I looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time, and I could tell he was different too, but in a way I couldn't understand yet. There was something more, something deeper in all of this. What bothered me, however, was the feeling of not being in control. I didn't know what was coming, and it troubled me in a way I wasn't prepared to handle. He seemed to know exactly what he was doing, as if he had anticipated every one of my moves, every one of my deepest desires. I, on the other hand, had no idea what to expect, and that made me question myself, and even our relationship. Was I ready to live this experience? And what would happen afterward? Despite all the comfort of routine, something inside me wasn't right. The setting, the anticipation, the environment, everything seemed so familiar, so expected, so predictable. It was as if we were performing a play we had seen countless times. What I had always sought in other moments now seemed like nothing more than a reflection of what I truly desired. Those caresses, the touches, the words spoken in silence, everything seemed empty of meaning. What had seemed enough before was now nothing more than a caricature of what my heart really longed for. I felt a restlessness, a deep emptiness that didn't fit into all of this. It was a feeling hard to express, as if the perfection of that night wasn't enough to fill the gap forming inside me. It wasn't his fault, nor mine. It was something more complex, something I couldn't fully understand. The need for something more, for something new, consumed me. Something that had never crossed my mind before, something that, until then, seemed so distant, now presented itself irresistibly. I needed something different. The thought repeated in my mind, relentlessly. I looked at him, and for the first time, I felt like we were in different worlds. He was there, so calm, so secure, and I was far away, lost in my own thoughts. The truth was, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew this wasn't enough. Something had to change, and I needed to be honest with myself. My voice faltered as I tried to articulate what was happening inside me. But with the courage I had left, I finally said, I need something different. The weight of the confession was immense, as if I had finally acknowledged something I had been ignoring for so long. I felt the shock in the words, but also the relief. It was as if a truth had finally been exposed. I didn't know what this meant for us, but I knew the change was inevitable. My husband looked at me with a look I couldn't interpret. There was no anger, no frustration, but there was something else, something he may have already known, and that I still didn't understand. By exposing my vulnerability, I felt that, in some way, we were on the brink of something new, something that could transform us, or maybe pull us even further apart. But what did it really mean to be honest about my own desires? What would happen now? When the words left my mouth, I felt a wave of relief mixed with fear. I was vulnerable, exposing something I never imagined I would say out loud. But instead of the reaction I feared, anger or despair, he remained incredibly calm. He didn't look at me with judgment, nor did he seem shaken by my confession. In fact, he seemed understanding. This threw me off even more, as I didn't know if that meant he already knew or if he was somehow prepared for something I couldn't even imagine. He didn't seem shocked or hurt, just serene. I expected him to question my loyalty or express the pain he was feeling. But no. Instead, he took a deep breath, as if he had already anticipated my words, and said calmly, I understand. I didn't know what to think. How could he understand? How could he be so calm, so rational? His calmness, more than anything, disarmed me. It wasn't a response I was expecting. What did he know? What had he already planned? As I still tried to process his reaction, he continued speaking, but this time with a confidence I didn't recognize. He wasn't surprised by what I said, as if he had heard it before, as if it was just a necessary step towards something bigger. He was, in some way, leading me to a place I never imagined I would go. He spoke about solutions, possibilities, as if pain and shock weren't part of the equation. Instead of asking for explanations, he was already thinking about what would come next. I think we can find a way to resolve this, he said. His words puzzled me even more, as if the situation had become something much more complex than I had imagined. At that moment, I felt like we were at a crossroads. What I saw as an end, he saw as an opportunity for a solution. It was as if he had already anticipated my fears, my insecurities, and was ready to act. I didn't know if this was good or bad, but somehow, I felt even more lost. I wanted to understand his mind, but at the same time, this made me question my own. What was he thinking? What did he intend to do? He knew more than he was letting on, but I didn't know if I was ready to discover it. I woke up with a strange feeling, as if the world around me had changed, but I was still trying to find my place in it. My husband was different. His gaze, his posture, even his voice, all seemed to have a new intensity. When he told me he already had a plan for the night, my heart raced, but not for the reason I had imagined. I knew he was taking what I had confessed seriously, but what was he suggesting? The way he spoke, so sure of himself, made me feel like he already knew exactly what to do, and that made me uncomfortable. He wasn't trying to soften things. He was, in some way, preparing the ground for something I didn't fully understand yet. I didn't know what to expect. He spoke about the night as if it were just another part of a meticulously thought-out plan, and that made me question everything I thought I knew about our relationship. He wasn't angry. He wasn't frustrated. He was in control. It made me feel a mix of curiosity and fear. I wanted to know more, but at the same time, something told me that the direction he was taking wouldn't be simple or easy to handle. I had already opened the door to an unknown path, but now he was guiding me into this new territory in a way I never imagined. What could this plan be that he mentioned? My body was tense, and my mind was filled with questions. I wondered if he knew more about me than I did. He seemed so calm, so determined, as if he were simply fulfilling a step in a process he had already visualized. Something inside me told me that the night wouldn't be just a simple adjustment to our routine. It would be something transformative. But at the same time, a part of me wondered how prepared I was to face what he had in mind. I knew he was just beginning to show me what he was truly willing to do to resolve the situation. I tried to relax, to believe that he had good intentions, but deep down, the uncertainty consumed me. What did he know? What had he planned? Curiosity mixed with anxiety. And as I looked at him, with his calm and trustworthy smile, I realized that maybe, just maybe, he was more prepared for all of this than I was. But was I ready for what was to come? I didn't know, but I knew the night would bring answers, and maybe even more questions. The dinner started off in a pretty ordinary way, or at least that's what I wanted to believe. The soft light of the restaurant, the distant sound of conversations and forks, and the sense of normalcy we tried to maintain. But something was different. My husband was completely at ease, more than usual. He was calm, but there was an energy in the air that I couldn't quite identify, as if he knew something big was about to happen. He looked at me with a soft smile, as if trying to reassure me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to be revealed. And then she walked in. The woman. I didn't know what to expect, but it certainly wasn't this. She wasn't a stranger, but her presence there, at that moment, was a shock to me. My husband's smile grew when she approached, and the way he greeted her made me feel like I was just a spectator. A strange sense of discomfort washed over me, and for a moment, I wondered if I had misunderstood everything. I had thought he had a plan to solve things, but that plan, apparently, didn't involve just the two of us. I didn't know how to react. My mind was racing, trying to process what was happening. She was beautiful, trustworthy, and seemed comfortable in the environment. But why was she here? The feeling of being a pawn in a game I didn't understand deeply unsettled me. My husband and she were talking naturally, as if they had known each other for years, while I felt increasingly out of place. My stomach churned, and as they interacted, I wondered if I was truly ready for what was to come. I no longer had control over anything. He had taken charge and was leading me down an unknown path. The woman looked at me with a friendly smile, but there was something in her eyes I couldn't decipher. I didn't know if I was being tested or if there was something bigger at play. I hadn't expected my husband to put me in this position, and although he was acting with an unshakable calm, I was on the verge of an internal collapse. What should I do? How should I react? This wasn't the night I had imagined, and as the minutes passed, I realized that the solution he was offering was far more than I could have predicted. The dinner, that simple encounter, had become an experience that would change everything. I didn't know what was happening, but one thing was clear. I was completely consumed. Everything around me seemed to fade, and the only thing left was the overwhelming sense of being in something beyond my control. Every touch, every word, every gesture seemed to resonate within me, creating a mix of pleasure and confusion. I never imagined I could feel so small and, at the same time, so big. A feeling of weight, not physical weight, but the weight of the choices I had made was crushing me. But there was also an indescribable lightness, as if all the pressure had disappeared and I was floating. I looked around, and everything seemed in slow motion. The sound, the voices, the glances, everything felt distant, as if the whole world was happening outside of me. I felt as light as a feather, but with a heart heavy with conflicting emotions. Truly, I no longer knew who I was in that moment. What was real? The pleasure? The pain? Or perhaps the freedom to finally live out a fantasy I had hidden for so long? The night had become a deeply transformative experience. I found myself reflecting on what had happened, questioning whether the choices I had made aligned with who I really am, or if I was simply being consumed by an insatiable need. Amidst all of this, a simple and terrible question arose in my mind. What now? What would happen after this? I had experienced something I never imagined I would be capable of living through, and now the only thing left was to try to understand what it meant for me. Deep down, I knew there was no going back. A part of me felt that I had broken something irreparable inside, but another part wondered, was this really what I wanted? What would others do? How would they react? I knew this experience would affect far more than just me. It would reverberate through all my future relationships and choices. Now, as I reflected on all of this, I felt there was something deeper behind everything that had happened. What did it mean to be free? To be able to explore the unknown, but at the same time, face the consequences. I felt empty, but at the same time full of something new, a feeling I had never experienced before. I wanted to believe that everything I had lived through could have a purpose, but at the same time, an existential doubt consumed me. What really remained from all of this? And more importantly, what will happen from here? One thing was certain. My life would never be the same. Now that you know the story behind all of this, the question is, what would you do in my place? Would you stay true to your vision of what's right and wrong? Or would you follow your own desires, even knowing the consequences? That's the crucial point. What's more important to you? The truth of who you really are or what others expect you to be? The choices I made may be uncomfortable to hear, but they are real, and this reflection is key to what lies ahead in your life. Life isn't made up of certainties. It's made of decisions, and some of those decisions can transform us forever. Sometimes, we must confront what makes us human to understand how far we can go to reach our own desires. So, are you ready to change your perspective to understand that not everything in life is black and white? If you feel this reflection could be the spark for a major change in your life, subscribe to the channel now, hit the bell so you don't miss anything, and start exploring all that you can learn from stories like this. Share your own experiences in the comments, because we're all learning together.